Well, 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 I guess Nintendo was right, huh? No. This is a bit of a peculiar little accessory Sony released for the PS5. It's the PlayStation Portal. And it feels like Sony has been releasing nothing but interesting accessories for the PS5. We have the DualSense Edge, and I'm probably like the farthest thing from a professional gamer. I mean, look at my gameplay footage of Lego Batman the video game. I'm hopeless. So take this with a grain of salt. I think this is incredibly overpriced. $200, and it's just like, yeah, it is more premium than a regular DualSense, but for like 3 times the price, like, no. Battery life is even worse on this thing. I'm not gonna call it a bad product, but for me, you know, me personally, I find it unnecessary. And then there's the PSVR 2. What's that? The original PlayStation VR for PS4, I picked up during a Black Friday deal, and I enjoyed it, you know, like I thought it was a solid little entry point to VR. Of course, the quality was not ideal at all, but it was good enough, you know, it did the job, you know. I mean, when you put it on initially, like you could definitely see like, oh wow, this is not the highest resolution headset out there. But you know, once you start playing the game, you know, you get sucked in, you know, it doesn't really matter that much. But that's the thing, the original PSVR was a good like entry point, it was a good budget option for VR. And because of that, it had actual games released for it. You know, you had a bunch of PS4 games that came with PSVR modes, and then you had PSVR exclusive games like Astrobot Rescue Mission, Moss, that Iron Man VR game that they announced in like a PlayStation presentation, and it was like around the time they released Spider-Man PS4, so it was like, oh man, they're doing Iron Man next, and then it turned out to be a VR game, and it was like, okay. But see, the original PSVR worked, and then they did PSVR 2, which is substantially better than the original PSVR, but it's also more expensive than the goddamn console. It's like, what? Overall, I'm gonna be spending like over $1,000 to experience absolutely no VR games, because like, what the hell is available for PSVR 2? Horizon Call of the Mountain, like Gran Turismo 7, like that's at least like, you know, like one of the best VR experiences out there, but it's like, what else is there? So yeah, an interesting lineup to say the least. So hey, let's add another. The PlayStation Portal released in 2023 for $200. So you get a controller with a screen, or a controller. The name PlayStation Portal obviously kind of makes it feel like, oh yeah, it's the PlayStation Portable again. This is a new era for PlayStation Portables. And you know, this does kind of carry on some of the legacy of PlayStation handhelds. So the PSP initially, you could do remote play with certain PS3 games. Now it was pretty limited on that thing. I mean, it is just the PSP and you only have literally like, you know, one stick to deal with. So if you were playing PS1 games on the PS3, you could connect your PSP to the PS3, and if the console and the handheld were connected to the same internet signal, then boom, you could then experience the game from your console on your portable. Of course, it wasn't perfect, like I said, like it only really worked with like PlayStation 1 games on PS3, and a few PS3 games were compatible where, yeah, you could play those actual PS3 games on the PSP wirelessly, but you know, it was incredibly limited. Lair worked, I believe Lego Batman worked, which is really weird because Lego Batman had a port on the PSP itself, so it's like, why don't you just play the PSP version? It's not like it was even like that downgraded from the PS3 version. Like the PSP version of Lego Batman is very similar to the PS3 version, but I guess it's like, hey, if you only have the PS3 version, now you don't need to spend money on another version of the game, as long as you remain within, you know, range of the PS3's Wi-Fi signal. The thing is, remote play was not a very well-utilized feature of the PSP. In fact, I don't think a lot of people even realized it was even a feature. It wasn't until the PlayStation Vita where remote play really became like a substantial thing. Now, much like the PSP, only like a handful of games supported PS Vita to PS3 remote play, but I'm sure that's kind of because the PS3 wasn't really like designed to do that, and the PS3 was already a nightmare of a system to develop for. So yeah, like I think they kind of cobbled together remote play access where they could, but for the most part, like I mean, like you could you could access the menus with remote play. No, but the PS4 was designed with this in mind. In fact, it was basically a requirement for all games to support remote play. Take any PS4 game off the shelf, yeah, you can use your PS Vita to play that via remote play, which is pretty incredible that like literally every game works. It's a little awkward because the Vita does not have triggers or clickable thumbsticks, so you have to use like the back touchpad for all of that nonsense. But hey, it did the job. The problem is still not a lot of people were using it. So remote play became a feature where you could access your PlayStation console through the internet on all kinds of devices. You have the PlayStation TV, little micro console. A big feature of that was potentially you could take that thing and put it on another TV, and then you could remote play from like your base PS4 over to like another TV, so then you could kind of, you know, game throughout the house without having to buy another PS4 or unplug your PS4 and bring it over to another TV. They extended remote play over to computers like Mac, PC, and smart devices, iOS, Android. So when the Vita basically kicked the bucket, Sony still allowed you to remotely access your PlayStation console as long as you're connected to the internet. There's even this little controller attachment they released by like Backbone, where, you know, you can get like a very PlayStation 5-esque looking controller to, you know, fit around your iPhone. And, you know, I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I've always thought those controllers are like kind of cool, but then the idea of actually buying one, I'm like, I'm gonna use this like maybe twice. Please tell me, like, how many people have you seen use an actual like physical video game controller attachment for their iPhone? I think I've seen this happen like once. It's always a neat concept, but honestly, Frankensteining your iPhone to do everything is just incredibly unappealing to me. This is supposed to be an all-in-one take-it-anywhere device, but then when you start like adding all this junk to it, like it just becomes a nuisance. Like, do I really need to play my PlayStation games like wherever I go on my iPhone? Honestly, I'm only playing games on my iPhone as like a last resort. I am so bored kind of thing, and it's a spur of the moment thing. I don't want to like bring a controller attachment and then start up like a 50-hour RPG. Ugh, I just feel like for a bit there, a lot of things just kind of went in the direction of like, well, the smartphone does everything. And, you know, examples of this right here, I think this shows that it's like, it is kind of nice to have a dedicated device for certain things. I don't want to use my iPhone for everything. My iPhone is my phone. Yes, it's nice to play a game on there every now and then. Yes, it's nice to watch videos or movies or something, but honestly, like, yeah, that's why I have a TV. That's why I have gaming devices, you know? Sometimes it's nice to just pick something up where that's the only thing you have to worry about is like, yeah, I'm only playing games on this thing. I just feel like doing remote play on all of these smart devices, there's just a little too much to set up, and having that all on your phone, it's just a little unappealing. So Sony developed this. It was originally titled Project Q. And they were like, this is a remote play device. It is made specifically just to connect to your PlayStation 5, and now you can play your PlayStation 5 remotely. There are immediate comparisons to the Wii U gamepad because it is a very similar concept overall. Here's pretty much a giant controller with a screen in the middle, and it's tethered to a home game console. Yes, you can get up off the couch and you can walk around and still enjoy your game, but for the most part, this isn't really like a portable device. You can't really take this on the go with you. This is pretty much to just enjoy your PlayStation 5 while you're sitting on the couch and somebody else is watching TV, which was one of the exact selling points of the Wii U and the Wii U gamepad, you know, off TV play. I think a problem with that, though, is that not every game supported off-TV play. It was kind of like the bare minimum some Wii U games offered as like a feature. Is like, if they didn't use the gamepad for anything unique, they were like, well, we support off-TV play. You can play the game directly on the gamepad. And back during the Wii U generation, that was kind of a nice little feature. I remember utilizing it quite a bit, honestly. So overall, this isn't the worst idea for a standalone little gaming accessory, and that's all the PlayStation Portal was really ever advertised as. Yes, you can clown on it because, you know, it does look like literally just an Android tablet with a DualSense literally massacred in half and then stuck onto the sides. But honestly, like, it makes for a decent feeling device. Yeah, it looks a little Frankenstein-y, but it works. It feels pretty much identical to a regular DualSense. And of course, with this being a Sony device, the screen is actually tolerable. Compared to the Wii U gamepad from 2012, yeah, this is an incredibly nice screen. It isn't like the greatest screen on the planet, but it is very, very nice for a small little gaming accessory screen. Now, this initially retailed for $200, and that price, like, you know, you can understand it, but it's also like, you know, is it a good deal? Is it not a good deal? I don't know, man. $200 is probably like the maximum of what this thing could have been, because it is completely dependent on the PS5, or at least it was initially. They actually put out an update for this thing where it's no longer dependent completely on a PS5. You can just stream from the cloud without turning your PS5 on. Now, the only games you can stream are from the PlayStation Plus game catalog. I don't even think it's the full list here, you know. I'm pretty sure it's just the games that they got clearance on that they could use in this cloud streaming setup. Which, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that makes this device like pretty standalone now. I'm like 99% sure you can buy this thing and then, you know, right out of the box, as long as you're signed up to PlayStation Plus and you have access to the game catalog, then, you know, you can use your PlayStation Portal to stream all kinds of games. Just, I wouldn't put it past them to like, oh, you have to own a PS5 still. You have to connect it to the PS5 and then you have to do this, but I'm pretty sure like yeah, this is a standalone device now, which does definitely make it a little more worth it. Now, to be fair, $200, all right, $200 for a PlayStation Portal or $200 for a Nintendo Switch Lite, you know? $200 for an actual game console or $200 for some kind of freak that requires Wi-Fi. Well, the thing is, as much as you can compare this to, you know, the Switch or even the Steam Deck or what the hell ever, this isn't meant to compete with those, in my opinion. It looks like it should, but like when you get down to it, this is serving a completely different purpose. This is meant to be a companion to your PS5 and meant to supplement your gaming activity if you can foresee it doing so. Like, Sony isn't really pushing this thing like crazy or anything. It's kind of just like, hey, have you ever been in a situation where you're playing your PS5 and then you have to move to a different room or somebody else is going to use the TV? Well, the PlayStation Portal might be for you. And I think if that's what it set out to do, it's okay. I only say that because, man, I have had only like mixed experiences with this thing. Sometimes it's like absolutely flawless. It works great. And other times I'm playing like a damn PSP game on the PS5. I was playing Toy Story 3 on this thing and it was like damn near unplayable. It got to the point where like it had this fun little portal animation, which, oh, okay, that's cute, but it sucked me out of the game. It was just like, buddy, we can't do this. And man, I have fiber internet. This is bad. But then when I was playing Astrobot with this thing, it was working just fine, but of course, you know, being over the internet, yeah, you know, I was experiencing a little bit of lag, and I could definitely like feel that with a platformer. I feel like playing something like, let's say, God of War Ragnarok, FF7 Rebirth, stuff like that, where, you know, like, yeah, you know, it's not like you want lag in those games, but being, you know, not about like fully precision-based platforming and being more of a traditional like modern video game, you know, those work pretty okay on the PS Portal. But it's been a little hit or miss with this for me. Much like game streaming in general has always been for me. I feel like you always have to go into game streaming knowing like this is not going to be a perfect experience. And I think you kind of have to play a game for a while while streaming it, to really get like sucked in and to kind of forget that, oh yeah, I'm streaming this game. Because you know what I do for the most part with like cloud streaming like this, like since everything is so accessible, I kind of hop around a lot to each and every one of these games. And doing so, I don't think I get like a fair enough read on like how good cloud streaming can be. It is so contingent on just so many factors, like how far away from the Wi-Fi router are you? How good of internet do you have? How good is your Wi-Fi router? Is your PS5 connected via Ethernet? Now, what I bought this for is because, you know, I capture pretty much all of my game footage. You know, I have this massive hard drive full of pretty much all the gameplay that I've recorded since 2017, okay? It's scary. It's like 64 terabytes, but damn it, it's all there. So, especially for the types of videos that I produce, you know, I need random gameplay a lot of the times. And I just kind of want to think logically about it, you know? Like, I do like playing games for fun, but hey, you know, I might as well record it while I'm doing that. And, you know, I have my whole capture set up. But, you know, I think it is kind of nice to be able to move to a different room and play on this while the game is like capturing and everything in a completely separate room. So, you know, this is good for that. It isn't perfect, but, you know, that's kind of the thing that you have to expect from remote streaming or cloud streaming like this. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be some hiccups. It's always going to be a little laggy. So if you buy this expecting it to be the PS Vita 2 or something, get the hell out. That was always my biggest concern with this thing, man. I mean, of course, like, you know, I think a lot of people like to say that, you know, consumers are stupid, you know, like you need to spell everything out for them like crazy. But I feel like people are a little more well-informed these days about, you know, like the products they're buying. So I feel like a lot of the people that are buying this damn well know what it's all about. But I do feel like a lot of people would probably just see this box and go, oh my God, that looks fucking crazy. And you just see big letters, PlayStation Portal. You're like, oh wow, that's so similar to PlayStation Portable. I had a PlayStation Portable back in the day. I should buy this. It's like a PS5 on the go. And it's like, sort of, if you already have a PS5. I mean, yeah, they make sure it's like, hey, it's remote player, it's for PS5, it shows PS5 and Wi-Fi required. And, you know, they kind of make sure you see all of this on the back of the box. So, okay, whatever. It has sold fairly well, and I remember a lot of people being skeptical about this, but you know what? It makes sense. You know, remote play has always been a feature that I've always seen and I've always thought has been cool, but the way you'd use it always felt incredibly compromised. You know, the PSP barely worked with anything. The PS Vita, it worked across most PS4 games, but you know, you didn't have like the full suite of controls of a standard like DualShock 4. You still had to like weirdly use the back touchscreen for certain buttons. You're using your computer, it's a little awkward. Using your iPhone is like super awkward. But this right here, it has your full DualSense control scheme. It has a big, beautiful screen. The only thing that's missing is the touchpad in the middle, and even that, you know, like it's just, you touch the screen. That, I'm gonna be honest, I've had some awkward uses of, like every time I've tried it, it's been a little awkward, but whatever. Overall, this isn't as compromised as any of those options. And this being a dedicated remote player device makes this so much more convenient than, you know, going to your phone and setting things up through that, having to connect a controller to that thing. And then, well, what if you get a phone call or something, you know, then, oh, great. This you can pick up whenever you want, connect to your PS5, and then you're just playing your game. So I think remote play finally makes a lot of sense with a dedicated device like this. It was always kind of a nice, cute little bonus feature that was kind of cool to see. Oh my God, controlling a PS4 game on PS Vita, that's cool. But it was never as practical as I think you really wanted it to be. This, it's finally practical. Of course, Sony primarily wants you to play this at home. They don't really want you to take it on the go and everything. You know, I remember seeing a lot of people having trouble like playing it on public Wi-Fi, especially because this thing didn't launch initially with a web browser baked into it. You know, this for the most part is kind of just like, it's barely anything. It's just meant to connect to the internet. There's no major internal stuff going on here. So the fact that it launched without a web browser, it's because Sony didn't want anybody to hack it, and a web browser kind of makes it easier to hack something like this. But that also made it so then if you wanted to use this on public Wi-Fi, like a lot of times public Wi-Fi reroutes you to a web browser, like just confirm something. But eventually they added that via an update. They also added, you know, the cloud streaming. The only other major problem with this thing is that it only works with the specific Sony headphones. You can use like a wired headphone jack here, so that's at least something. But if you want to use wireless headphones, you can only use the PlayStation branded ones because this doesn't have any Bluetooth connectivity. Technically speaking, you could plug in like a Bluetooth receiver into the wired headphone jack, but still, like, what? That's a little silly, but, you know, this isn't supposed to be a jack-of-all-trades, like, all-in-one device. This is supposed to be a remote player for your PS5. And honestly, it does it. It could be better, but it does what it does. And I think the only major question I have left is it better than the Wii U gamepad doing off-TV play? Well, I think what's nice about the Wii U gamepad is that it doesn't require an internet connection. The Wii U connects to the Wii U gamepad through a proprietary wireless connection, which means you can only, like, be within, like, 10 feet or something of the Wii U. So, like, I don't know. Like, you can't really move away that far. And honestly, over the years, I feel like it's gone a lot worse. I remember being able to move farther away from the Wii U to play off-TV play with this thing. Nowadays, like, I can barely move away like 10 feet from it. This, as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, you know, it works. So, being internet reliant means this thing is far more useful nowadays, but it also probably means this thing will not work in like 10 years. This thing probably will work in 10 years. I don't think that's really a plus. I'm waiting for the day this thing kicks the bucket. I have an insurance policy out on it. The PlayStation Portal may not be for everybody, but I think it serves a pretty valid purpose overall. And as far as all the other accessories Sony's put out for the PS5, I think this one is definitely the best. But really, what was the competition? I spent $200 to do this! On an unrelated note, I'm a tool.